Today, I'm going to talk about our feet positioning when we practice Tai Chi. This is an area that I feel like students don't really have a clear understanding of the foot positioning and the weight distribution along their feet, because in traditional Chinese martial arts, we wear shoes and students don't actually get to see our actual foot positioning. You just see the shoes and you can kind of gauge based on the shoe positioning what the foot positioning is, but you might not actually get the fine details behind it. And it's not something that Chinese martial arts instructors and Tai Chi instructors put any emphasis on. And I think it really deserves a moment to go into it because it really makes a huge difference. That connection of your foot to the ground is what supports everything on top of it. And if it's not giving you that right support, then everything above it isn't supported properly. So that's why I'm actually gonna do today's lesson with bare feet. So hopefully you can actually see what the positioning is. My own martial arts training started before I studied Wushu and Tai Chi. And where we started, we were barefoot. And some of these things I'm going to share with you that was really honed in when I was doing that training, but also does apply with Tai Chi as well. It's there, but isn't emphasized. So I think that this is a good thing for me to kind of tie that in so that you can see how it can improve your Tai Chi. Feet underneath our shoulders and the toes point straight ahead, the knees a little bit bent, and this is the position that we learn how to be in, the Tai Chi pole, all of that. You want to learn more about that, you can watch my other videos. I hear a lot of people say that they need orthotics, they can't function without their orthotics. I've actually fractured my left ankle twice. I've talked openly about my 3 knee surgeries. I tore my right ACL twice, my left ACL once, but I also fractured my left ankle twice. The first time I was very young, I was 11, and I was told that I structurally damaged the foot. I would need to wear custom orthotics my whole life, every day, in all of my shoes. And I did that from when I was 11 all the way until I was an adult. And it wasn't until I started martial arts after I graduated college where I studied. We were a barefoot dojo and we really focused on foot positioning and strengthening up the feet. And that was when I realized that just understanding the proper alignment in your foot positioning can strengthen up your feet in a way to overcome a lot of these injuries and structural damage. My left foot is permanently structurally damaged. I can't make it undamaged, but I can strengthen everything where that damage doesn't actually hinder my ability to move and the strength that I needed to have to support my weight on it to do everything that I need to do. This is how most people stand when we say stand with your feet shoulder width apart and your toes point straight. They aim their big toe to point straight, and the feet actually are angled a little bit out to the side. This is easier on your knees. So if you have knee issues, if you don't have flexibility in your quad, you don't have glute strength, this is perfectly fine to be in this position until you build up that flexibility in the quad, the strength here in your hips and pelvis and glutes. If you come into the feeling of where the weight comes into the foot where that weight is supported on the foot. What you'll notice is there's actually this pulling inwards. The arches fall, the knees kind of get pulled inwards. You don't feel very supported on top. And this is how most people position their feet when they do their movements. And there's actually not a lot of support for your body to be on top of. And if the weight is kind of pulled down on the inside, then you can't distribute that weight upwards. Even if you wanted to distribute your weight upwards, which is what we want to do in Tai Chi, right? There's this pull up from the Bai Hui point to lift up. But if the weighting just pulls you down and you can't bring that up, then this isn't working. You don't have your internal structural alignment. Try to open up your qua. You'll notice that it's almost like there's this competing pull inwards with a fallen arch. You really have to forcefully push open the knees. And it's almost like there's a lot fighting against each other to make that happen, and it doesn't feel structurally supportive. Now, if you adjust, just little adjustment, where instead of pointing your big toe forward, point your second toe forward. Point the second toe forward, but put pressure down into your big toe and equal amount of pressure down in your heel and finally behind the balls of the feet. Notice how if you now go inside your body and feel where the weight of your body is supported on top of your feet, the feeling now feels like there's a support, that the weight is on top. You don't have that pulling down to the inside. Now, if you imagine the lifting up from the Bai Hui point, you can actually feel that transfer of that weight up into the body. And it's just such a slight little difference that does that. But hopefully you also will feel that now your arches have to work, right? You really are forming those arches. The arches support the body. Those arches can be built if you put your feet into the right position and put the weighting into the right spot. The qua has to open up. So you need to build that strength and flexibility into the quad. The glutes need to engage to support it as well. The core now has to be active as that feeling on the top of your head pulls up. You actually engage more in this like line of supporting force on the inside. And because this is strengthening on the inside, the outside can relax more. There's this mistaken concept that when we say we relax in Tai Chi, it's like we're just like a wet noodle. And that's not true. We want something that is very strong and tensile to form on the inside so that everything on the outside can relax. But there is a very strong internal frame that we have to build and develop. And that comes from internal alignment and architecture. It really is like we're building an internal structure within our body that it's like we have to rebuild the internal structure in our body to make this all happen. And it's so subtle, it's so small, which means that we have to come inside to really feel those differences. So when your big toe is what points straight, and the toe and your feet kind of point out to the side, then you can try to get into your Tai Chi position, but it's like the outside, the muscles have to squeeze to make all of that happen, and it doesn't feel strong. It's like you try really hard, but it's not really strong. If you point the second toe to be what points straight ahead, and put the weighting in your big toe behind the balls of the feet and the heel. Now, it's like you do have to work harder in this like line of support on the inside from your feet up the body, up the top of your head. But it should kind of feel like, that's like a steel frame on the inside that now is strong and very strong, but then you can relax all around that. If you tried this out, let me know in the comments. I want to know if you felt the difference, if it changes your ideas about positioning and the internal structure. Let me know if you want me to talk more about some of these like finer details behind our internal structure and alignment and positioning that might not be so obvious.